Okay, so yeah, my initial thought when I was doing this was like, why not put the search bar in our app nav and then kind of use that functionality so that any page that has the app nav in it can search. That makes sense because our homepage has app nav and our section pages have the app nav, right? So let me adjust my code. I'm actually going to change my app nav just for funsies. So app nav. I kind of want a home link too. So I'm actually going to add a home link. So how would I do that? I'm going to take this, grab that, and add a method. Let's say render nav items. Okay, and then I want to add something in here. So let's do create let elements equal that hot mess, and then we can also add something to it. So I'm going to do let elements equal empty list. And we'll do elements dot push. Let's add a link. So I'm adding a link to my homepage just because I find myself going to my homepage and not being able to access it. So let's hard code a homepage link. The link to that would be just slash, okay. So app nav wants to navigate to slash. Call that home. And that can go, it can go either place. We can push it or add it separately. Actually, yeah, so return elements select. We should be able to return a div. And that could have link and elements. All right, let's see if that actually works. If I mess something up royally, so I have elements. I need to call render nav items. Okay, let's see what happens. Compile successfully. That's one positive. Oops, forgot my this. I just need to do it often. This dot render nav items and nav items. Where's nav items coming from? Anyone know?
You're just loading it from the file.
Ah, okay.
Just section 2.
Gotcha. All right. So we got our home, opinion, world, national, business. Looks like I broke something with that. So let's add some spaces. I'm not going to debug this too hard code, non-breaking space. All right, simple enough. All right, so we got that. Maybe a couple more spaces. Sorry, I care about styling probably more than I should. I just want it to be readable. All right, there we go. So we have home, opinion, world, national, business. So we can click on those. Looks like the A tag should be probably separated, but either way, we get the idea. So now when I click on home, cool, I get to the home page, opinion, cool. All right, next item of real business is we want to move that search bar. So if I go to the home page, where was our search bar? Well, we had this input group. So simple enough, grab that. And you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to create another component. Do I have to? Probably not. Will I? Yes, I will. So let's create a new folder, and I'll call that search bar. And I guess that's where we organize stuff here. So in that, I'll create search bar.js. And that's going to be a brand new component. And you can have as many components within components within components. So it's going to be a React class component. I'm going to call it search bar. And that's going to return this input group that we had before. So I'm going to copy that includes also from React strap. So you, sir, can come with me. Drop that here. All right. So now we have a search bar component. Pretty simple there. But we need to actually use this within something else. So I'm going to put that into my app nav. So here I'm going to import search bar. Again, to be clear, you don't have to create a new component for this, but then I could use a search bar again somewhere else should I need to. So search bar. All right, cool. So now that we have search bar available to us, let's just drop it in here. We have nav bar. Do we need it inside of there? I'm not sure. Search bar. And this needs to be wrapped in a div because we have multiple elements now. So we have the nav bar and the search bar. Okay, cool. Let's see what actually happened there. Let me actually jazz up my search bar just a little bit more. Now that I have a component, let's add some header here. So say span search. Can't resolve search bar. App nav, can't find it. That's because we need search bar. There we go. Okay, compiled successfully. That's always promising. Let's see what happened here. All right, we got a search bar. It's not actually a span, so it looks like whatever the input group is taking up the whole bar, but we still got a search bar. But now the question, yeah, so we're on a section page, and notice that we have the search bar. So I go to home, search bar is there, opinion, world. Let's add a title to our homepage just for my sanity. Let's say H1 homepage. Okay, homepage, opinion. Everyone cool with me? So now this search bar, while it's in the same place, it's actually part of the app nav. So now I didn't have to change the section page at all, right? I didn't touch any section pages, but my search bar is available here. So I can type and everything types, but I can't actually search, right? I'm not actually changing anything. So I do get an error because I don't have that handler. Let's go back to my homepage and I had this handle search. So I'm just going to basically grab everything out of here that I had before. So that'll go in the search bar. That's the handler. So when we actually type something, handle search should take care of it. Handle search. We need a state value of filter text. So we're just poaching things from our homepage that we had earlier. So filter text can go away. And I'm going to kind of think ahead. So hopefully you guys can stay with me. But thinking ahead, this is no longer going to be a state value. It's going to be a prop. I'm going to pass in filter text to this component. So I'm going to make this previous props and this props.filter text, right? So that's still the check in component update. The component update will update either when props change or states change. Previously, filter text was a state within the homepage, but now its value is extracted out. So it's going to be passed on as props. So kind of have that design in mind. Now we handle search, we get a state value. Question is, where should we store this state value? And so the answer to this is usually your most centralized parents. So if I go to app.js, while it might seem like I don't want it here, I'm going to add a state value and call that filter text. All right, so the reason I put in my parent is my parent's going to be sharing it with its children. So this is probably the most sensible place to put it. So I have filter text, and then I need to render these methods. All right, so question is, how do we pass on additional props to our children? This is where documentation comes into play. So if I go to router, react, and render, let's see what documentation has. So we have routes. Notice we could render something. So currently we pass it a component, but instead of passing a component, we could render something instead. So if I remember my syntax here, I create a method, render section page, will be a function. And here I'm going to return section page. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. So router props section page will be returned. Not sure why that's not highlighting. Router props. Right. So we get router props. We're gonna pass that down. Router props. And then secondly, we want to pass additional params. So this is just breaking that object, whatever router props is, that's coming from our router. This is what contains like this.props.match.params, all that good stuff is from router props. So I'm just going to pass that down, and then here I could pass something else called filter text. We're going to set that equal to filter text. Copy this, do the same with my home page. I could probably centralize this, but not too much logic being copied. All right, so homepage gets filter text, and so does my section page. Now I need to change this so I get a render. Render. And instead of the page, we got to give it the function. So it's going to be a render or this dot render. Oops, wrong place. Sorry, I'm trying to do this quickly. Components equal article page. We don't have a search on there, so that can be untouched. But this will be this dot render section page and this dot render homepage. All right, well, let's see what happens. So render that. All right, so what's going on here is we're calling this render property, I guess. It's going to call our function with router props because that's automatically passed to our component. And then we're sneaking in another prop that we want to pass down. So in this matter, whatever filter text is will be passed down to both of these pages. So let's actually see this in play. If I do something to search, let's see if our homepage will actually show it. So homepage is here. Let's see if we can print that out. So here, I'm going to add console.log. Let's actually see what new filter text is. Okay, so just to be clear, right now I've hard-coded a value just to test it. I've set filter text. My question is, will that actually get trickled down? And the answer is no, so I'm not changing it. So let me take this console log and put it in our did component mount instead. Okay, so I should see hopefully that prop value here. So let me save this, compile successfully. That's promising. That's not so promising. Filter text not defined.
I think you need this dot state dot filter text.
Yep, always
Okay.
forget my thises. That is a recurring pattern here. So I need to go back to app. Yep, that should be this dot state dot filter text. Good catch there, Jack. This dot state dot filter text. All right, halfway there. If I can refresh this, go to home page. Let's look at my console, and hopefully I see what I was expecting. Yep, search something to search for. So I'm successfully passing down a prop to my child page. That's half the battle. We're passing downwards. The other battle is passing upwards. And what I mean by that is passing from the search bar up to the parent so that the parent can send props down to the children. So I wish I could diagram this, but I don't have my tablet handy. But the essential idea here is we have app. This app owns two items or multiple items. It owns the app nav, and it owns all these pages that are being rendered. App nav is our buddy that contains the search bar. So search bar right here, where is it? Search bar is the one that actually knows what the user is typing, because that's where the input's coming from. So if I pass it something that says handle filter text, I'm not sure what to call it. We could say that's going to be this dot props dot handle filter text. So, okay, so this is going to be a prop value that is going to be essentially not used here. Search bar. Okay, so instead of calling handle search here, let's see, we do that. We don't have a state value. So I'm just going to call this dot props dot handle filter text. All right, so what's happening here is we're passing out via props, we're passing a callback function essentially, so that when the user types something in the search bar will capture the value and then send it to whoever wants to handle it. In this case, we're passing, again, a callback through the props. That callback is coming from its parent, which is app nav. So app nav here has a value that it's passing, but hey, that happens to be props also. So the app nav is getting a props value called handle filter and just passing it through down to this search bar. So in this case, what we have to do is go to our app. App nav needs a handle filter text, and that's going to be actually handled by a parent here. So question, what can I pass it here to easily update my state? Maybe that's not the best leading question, but I have state here. How do I normally update state here?
Is it use state possible?
Not sure. Sorry, Alex, I didn't hear you quite clearly. How do we normally update
Okay,
state?
normally, oh, you normally update state by just use state, I thought.
Was that use state?
Yeah, use state.
So
unless-
use state is for functional components. So keep that in mind. But for class-based components, we have set state, right? We do this dot set state and some value, right? Do you guys remember? We pass it a dictionary, so we'll do filter text and then new value, right? This is how we normally call set state inside of a function. So if I move this like here, should be fine, right? So instead of doing this here, I can simply create an anonymous function right here. That's going to take in a text value. So new filter text. And guess what that's going to call? It's going to call this state filter text with new filter text. All right, so let's just walk through these steps to make sure we're not losing anybody along the way. All right, so what's going on here? We are creating an anonymous function, as mentioned before. Okay, so we're creating a new function here that's going to accept some text value. Whatever text value we get, we're going to call this set state and update the filter state text. All right, that's a state value in the app class. So we're in the app class. We have a state value filter text. We'll initialize that to empty string, and then someone is going to call our handler. So we have a handler called handle filter text. Who's going to call it? Well, if we look into app nav, since we're passing it this via props, look at app nav. App nav has something called this.props.handle filter text. That's what that app.cs is passing to our nav bar, or app nav, whatever we call it. Yep, app nav. So app is the parent class. App nav is the kind of the child class in between. That's getting this as props, and what it's doing, it's just passing it straight through to its child. It has a child component of search bar, so it's just saying, hey, I got some props. Here you go, child. Take my props. So we pass that prop down with the same name. It doesn't have to be the same name. I can name this donuts if I want to. If I name that donuts, then I need to go to search bar and name this donuts. Okay, but usually we don't want to call it donuts. I'll just say handle filter text for keeping that consistent. But again, you can name props whatever you want to name it, as long as it's sensible, should be fine. So where did I name it? Donuts, right here. Handle filter text. Okay, so from the search bar, it's passing it up to its parent, which is app nav. App nav just says, nope, I'm not going to handle it. Whoever passed me this handler is going to handle it. So we're going to go back to app.js, and who's handling it? Well, app.js is handling by setting state with that new state value. Given that, that means once that state updates, React will automatically say, okay, well, we're using that state value as a prop for these components, so they're going to re-render your home page or your section page. So let's actually see if this works. So I have compiled successfully. All right, here's my search bar. Let's minimize that. Let's search for AUT. Nothing changed. Question is, why didn't anything change? Let's easily debug that. So state values there. Let's do a console log here. Console.log and new filter text. And let's see if we actually get this new filter text from our child. Save that. Refresh, and let's search for something. What does our console show? Okay, we do get the output. So half the battle is passing the value from the search bar up to the parents. So we're getting the correct value here. Question is, why are we not passing it down to children? So we update a state value. This should trigger a re-render. It's not. Any ideas? So this, oh, I think we need to call these. So we want to call this function right away. We're not passing as a handler. So I think that might have been my issue, maybe not. Nope, I lied. That we don't want to call that. Render will call that for us. So why aren't we getting these props? Let's put a console.log. Hey, I'm showing the home page. Does this function get called again? Yep, so I got, hey, I'm showing the home page. Can I do, all right, so that looks like that's working. So our home page is being rendered again. The question is it getting the new props? So I think it is. So where would I check that? Console.log, this.state.to props that, what do I want here? Filter text. New text. I think all my values are correct. I'm not sure if I screwed up something here. Oh, I did. I got it. Sorry. So if you remember before, filter text was a state value. So I updated it here, but I did not update it up here. So it was using the same old value. So now if I save it, fingers crossed, this will work, maybe. Yep. Notice that I get nothing for hello because it's not English. If I do AUT, yep, I get the AUT articles and nothing else. Does it work from our section page? Well, the answer there is going to be no, because if I go here, this doesn't impact our section page because we don't have a filter that we pass it, right? If we look at our API for, all right, so we fetch articles by just normal standards, we allow it to pass it a filter title. Our section does not take in a filter title. So I'm kind of going to wrap up here because I know we're going long. But what you need to do is also pass in a filter title to your filter articles by section and do something very similar to the homepage where we call fetch articles with the filter text. And that's passed as a prop, so you don't need to create anything new. But your section API should be able to take in a filter just like it's doing with the where. It should be able to do a title I like also. So I'll leave that to you guys, but hopefully you guys kind of get the idea. The main task here was pulling out that search bar, putting it into the app nav. In this case, I created another component. I didn't have to, but now we actually pass back values via handler. So the search bar, when you type into it, it's going to pass back something via the props handler. That's going to pass it to the app nav. The app nav says, nope, I don't want it. Handle it via whoever passed me this handler. And that happens to be app.js. So app.js eventually handles it right here, where we call set state directly with that new value. So whenever that state happens, a re-render is triggered. These items will get re-rendered if they're on the page. What questions do you guys have about the general concepts here?
That's awesome.
Okay,
Thanks.
there are some more thoughts to this. So the second extended challenge is how to reuse API calls. You guys can kind of think about that. The big hint there is just don't make as many API calls. Can you implement filtering yourself without having the API do it for you? And the answer is you should be able to. Remember regex, remember all those tools that we talked about. You should be able to filter things so we don't constantly call the API. Because if you think about it, you don't really want to, if the user types a word that's 10 letters long, you're making 10 separate requests to the API. That's not efficient. So think about how to clean that up. Okay. Before we wrap up, any last minute questions? Or do you guys, or do you want to just get back to your evening?
Quick question on what you just said, Unker. So to reduce API calls, I mean, we fetch all the articles to start, right? So you can just preserve that and basically query that data set. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that is what I had in mind, and that is what I implemented in a different challenge. But you got the idea there. So your options there, where Sean was hinting towards or saying, was basically, hey, do I want to call the API 10 times when I type a 10-letter word, or should I just make 10 queries within my data set that I have locally and query that 10 times? Which one's faster? Well, it's going to be querying your own data set 10 times rather than making 10 API calls. Again, API calls are relatively slow. Querying your data set, even if you do it 10 times, it's going to be faster. You could also, as a stretch challenge, have it so the user hits a submit button when they want to filter. So they type in a word, then hit submit. That means you're not going to have to constantly filter as they're typing their search criteria. But I don't know if that's better functionality or not. Like, it's kind of nice that it dynamically filters. I think it looks kind of cool. Or that's some work on my search page, but you know, it's kind of cool that it dynamically updates. So if you want to leave that, that's totally fine too. All right. Sorry for going a bit long. Let me stop the recording.